أجمعين. Right, so Alhamdulillah, we have reached the end of obligations of the wudu. So we have how many conditions?
10.
10 conditions. What were they? Number 1, Islam. Number 2, sanity. Number 3, maturity. Trying not to look in the papers if that's possible. Number 4, intention. Number 5,
Breakage barrier.
Breakage barrier. So stopping anything that's getting in the way of you washing the limbs. Number 6, that's the last one.
I don't really know how to say it.
You can't read from your writing.
No, I don't know how to say it.
Istinja, yeah.
Istinja, Istinja, istijmar. Washing yourself in the toilet, basically. Number 7. 7 and 8 had to do with water. Purity. Right. How many types of water did we say there are? 3. Number 1 is
Pure water.
pure and it purifies. Number 2 is pure but it doesn't purify, like soft drinks, Coke. You can't do wudu with Coke, you know, like it doesn't work. And then the third one, najis, so impure, the water that's dirty water. It cannot be used. Okay, and then we said if the water gets above a certain amount, like if it's a river or an ocean, and you see someone, you see a dog urinate, for example. If you're on a beach, obviously you see that. You see a dog urinate in the ocean. The whole ocean now impure.
It doesn't really affect.
No, you can look at it doing it there, and then this side of the ocean is doing wudu, no problem. You know, it doesn't affect the ocean. Okay, then after that, the next part of that's got to do with water. Number 8. Permissibility, the water being mubah, halal. What happens if the water is not halal?
You can, you can't use it to do wudu.
You can't, that's it. It just make it easy. We don't have to get different opinion. The only reason why I mention it is that you know that it's there in the mind. If you see someone doing slightly different, then you get why there's a slight difference of opinion. Okay? And then the next one? Barrier. So yes, anything that stops the water from getting to the limbs. And then the last one? To time entering. Enter time, which is got to do with someone who
Breaks.
Continuously break wudu. So for that person, what does he have to do?
Only pray before every salah.
Only what?
Pray before.
Only pray or?
No, do
Wudu, yes, good. So do wudu at the time of every salah. So do wudu 5 times a day, which is good anyways. You're renewing your wudu. Hassan, you're sitting far away. What are you drinking? Where's my one? What is it?
No, how about you stay there and I'll go smoking?
No, it's fine.
I don't know.
Hey you! Is there coffee down there somewhere?
There is coffee. Yeah, there is.
Come on. I was waiting for that. I had to tell you now. Which one is there? Yeah, the latte is fine. Khalas. Okay. So the next part was when now we did conditions that was before the wudu. Now we got into the wudu itself. And then we said about the obligations, as in the ones you have to do and you're not excused from doing. There are how many?
6.
6, very good. So the first 4 has got to do with washing, actual washing. Yeah, and then number 5 is in order, and then number 6,
avoid dryness.
avoid dryness. Yeah, perfect. Okay, the next part, now we've done the conditions, we've done the obligations, and we'll add on the cherry on top, which are the sunan. So that we do the voluntary acts to get reward and perfect the wudu, because we always aspire for perfection in every type of worship and every way that we connect to Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 1 is saying Bismillah before the wudu. Okay, so when it comes to Bismillah, you will see some people say that it's an obligation, as in a wajib. So an obligation as long as you don't forget. Yeah, so some people will say that. And others say that it's just a sunnah. So just to be on the safe side, don't, obviously alhamdulillah we have the habit of saying Bismillah anyways, tasmiyah, so it shouldn't be left out. It's not good to just leave it out. Yeah, no matter what position you hold, you just keep trying saying Bismillah before the wudu. Okay, the other thing about Bismillah, guys, is that let's say you start the wudu, and then in the middle of the wudu, you remember, oh, I didn't say Bismillah. Can you say Bismillah?
No, because you're in the bathroom.
Oh, that's another point. We'll get to that. But let's say it's here. It's here, the wudu area. The wudu area, there's no bathroom there, toilet or any najasa, right? There's no impurity. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, so here it's fine to say Bismillah, this wudu area. So now, in the middle of the wudu, if you remember that you didn't say Bismillah, you can say Bismillah on the spot, no matter where you are in the wudu. No problem. You can be washing your feet, washing your face, washing your arm, no matter where you are. As soon as you remember, then you just say Bismillah and carry. You don't have to start again, right? If you finish the wudu and then you remember that you didn't say Bismillah, no problem. You know, you're exempt from it because you forgot. Even if it's that opinion, it says that if you forget, you're excused. Let alone if it's a sunnah. If it's a sunnah, then no problem. Yeah. So if you forget, you will get the reward as well, because you have the habit of always doing it, but you just forgot. So if you forget, it will be counted as if you did it. Now this other mas'ala that our young brother mentioned, with regards to mentioning the name of Allah Azza wa Jal in the toilets. It was more severe before our time, and it is severe if you have the toilets back home. So the point is that you don't say the name of Allah where there is najasa, impurity. Nowadays, unless you've actually done your business and impurity is there, there won't be any impurity there. That doesn't mean that it's okay to say Allah. No. We should still avoid. My point is that it's slightly less severe. You still need to avoid saying the name of Allah or reading Quran or anything or any dhikr while you're in the toilet. Even if najasa is not physically there, that is a place where najasa is usually. So just because of that, out of respect for the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, we don't say His name. Now, some places you've got a bathroom, you've got a toilet and you've got a sink, which is generally the case in our houses, which is the usual question. If that's the case, and you start your wudu, as long as you've done your business, you flushed, or you put the lid down, you don't leave it open unless there's something with you, and you just leave it there, you flush the toilet, and then you put the lid down, and then when you start, just slightly like Bismillah, like a quickly low tone, low volume Bismillah, because you can't escape that when you're in that environment. You're in the bathroom, you can't leave, say Bismillah, come back. You can't do that. When you start your wudu, when you start washing your hands, yeah, that's where you say Bismillah. Okay. Using miswak. Using miswak, there are a number of different scenarios in the day where it's preferable for you to use the miswak. One is when you're making wudu. When you're making wudu, when you're ready for salah, when you wake up from sleep, before you read Quran. You know, these are times that is recommended. It's a sunnah. Because it's a recommendation, if you don't use the miswak, is that a problem? It's not a problem at all. But it's preferable. One of the companions, you know, Rasulullah, he used to use the miswak so often that one of the companions, he was like, you know what, today I'm gonna count. I'm gonna keep analyzing this behavior of the Messenger ﷺ and count. Every single time he used the miswak. So he says, I got to about 16, 17 and I gave up. Because he got too much. Kept using it. So it's like, okay, yeah, just to show how much emphasis was put on using the miswak. لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل صلاة. If it wasn't for the difficulty of my ummah, I would have commanded them, I would have made it obligatory for them to use the miswak before every salah. But out of his mercy, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in this ummah, he didn't command us and it didn't become obligatory. Okay, the next part. Washing the limbs once is the obligatory part. It's not an obligation to wash it more than once. If you want to wash it a second or a third time, the second and third time becomes sunnah. They are voluntary acts. As part of perfection, you know, they improve your wudu generally. What is not good to do, not recommended, and not part of the sunnah of the Messenger to keep washing it more than 3 times. You know, the minimum is 1 and the maximum is 3. Don't keep washing it like, you know, then it becomes israf, like overusing water. Yeah, and that's another thing that you keep in mind. That you wash with minimum amount of water. You don't just leave the tap open and just like, you know, like do israf. You know, and misuse the water just because it's available, readily available everywhere. You know, you use minimum amount of water. The Messenger ﷺ, he used to use 1 mud, you know, 2 handfuls like this of water for his entire wudu. Just this of water. You fill this with water, that was his entire wudu. You might think, how? How is that possible? If you get a bit of water and you rub it, you see that the whole limb becomes wet. So if you try it, you see that it's actually possible. It's doable. It takes a bit. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it that way. But just to, you know, like sometimes you think, oh, just this. That's literally like half of just washing my hands. You know this. So let alone for the entire wudu. So that if you take a bit of water and then you rub it and take a bit of water, you see like, how much water you can save. I'm not saying that you need to do that, you know, but there needs to be a balance. That you don't just misuse it and just because it's available everywhere. You don't just let the water run and then you're doing your own thing, you know. So you have to keep that in mind. Washing the right side, as we highlighted before. Washing the right side is also part of the sunnah. So if you were to wash the side first, is that permissible?
Yeah.
It is permissible. Yeah, if you do the left side first, then the right side. No one's doing it, so if you see someone doing it, you'll be like, you're good. Because no one does it, so that's why even if you say, oh, it's okay, you're like, oh, is it actually okay? Because no one does it. So, but in reality, it's fine. It's not a problem, but you shouldn't do it because the sunnah of the Messenger, that's what we try to follow. So we shouldn't do left first, then right. And if you try to do left side, then right side, just because like you want to make a joke out of it, then that's a more serious concern. You know, because making a joke out of any part of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal is part of the nullifier of the whole faith. So you actually leave the fold of Islam if you make fun of anything to do with the religion. Because the thing with the religion, everything is serious. Don't make fun out of, you know, the ibadat, wudu, worship, the hadith of the messenger, the sayings of the messenger, the Quran. You know, these are serious matters. So any joke in those topics, in those matters, could potentially, billah, take you out of the fold of Islam in its entirety. And then we have the dua after wudu. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Yeah? And we also have the dua that you say when you go in the toilet. Generally, you have dua for everything, yeah? So that's why I didn't want to include lots of stuff, dua, and then the result, and then how to, because there are etiquettes that you just sit briefly to mention because of limited time. The way you enter toilet, exit toilet, enter the masjid, exit the masjid, enter the house, exit the house, and then dua for all of those. Yeah, so you can refer to the Fortress of the Muslim perhaps, or even search it as well, and you'll find those du'as, and it's preferable for you to say them so that you are always protected. Just like when you go into a battlefield, you're not going to go naked, you know, you're going to go have, you know, protection, armor, helmet, or whatever, you know, to protect yourself, shield. But when you're out and about, there's all sorts of evil, you know, apparent and hidden, that are out there that we seek protection from. So you by saying these du'as and general remembrances, you keep yourself safe, especially from the other creation of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the jinn. They're out there, they're especially in the toilets, that's where they hang out, I guess. It's their thing, but yeah, they like to do that. And if you're in those environments and you don't say it, and they're there, and you hurt them by not seeing them, you might hurt them. They like us will take revenge. You know, just like one kid that was possessed by a jinn. So they asked the jinn, like, what is wrong with you? Why are you possessing a kid? They were like, oh, the kid came close to a tree and he didn't say Bismillah and he stepped on my son. So now I'm getting back at him. You know? So just to point out that there is evil out there, you know, so you keep yourself protected, and one main way of doing that is these du'as. Dua in the toilet, leaving the toilet, it just takes seconds, and once you get in the habit, then you unconsciously will say them, you know, Bismillah, and then at the end, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Okay, so now we get to the next mas'ala. Yes, the next topic, wiping over the socks. Yes, so where we start off, we say that the leather socks, consensus, there is consensus as in every single scholar agrees that you can wipe on leather socks. Now we put that on the shelf. Now we come to what concerns us. Is it leather socks? Anyone wear leather socks today? No. We're wearing normal socks. So now we have the hadith where the Messenger ﷺ performed wudu, and he wiped over his socks and his shoes. So it is permissible for you to wipe over your socks. If you see someone who doesn't want to do it, don't tell them you have to do it. Or if you don't want to do it, you know, it's not wajib. You don't have to wipe over your socks. And you don't want to do it, sure, wash your feet, that's better anyways. But don't tell others that are doing it not to do it. That's why we point out these differences. So you don't cause problems, you know, these are small things. We don't, the people, you know, that they actually argue and fight over wiping over the socks. You know, it's as if like we're nursery and stuff. We fight over wiping over the socks. You know, if you want to wipe, wipe. If you don't want to wipe, don't wipe. What's it to you if I don't want to? It's not your feet, it's my feet. If I don't want to wash them, what's it to you? That's why we mentioned this difference of opinion. Because when it hasn't been mentioned, You know, in some masajid, they say, no, different opinion causes confusion. True, if we go into different, he said, Abu Hanifa says, Ahmad says, Malik says, Shafi'i says, Sha'bi says, then you will be, okay, what do I do now? Because you're telling me like 17 different opinions. So, as long as it's mentioned that you know some people doing slightly different. Shaykh Ayyub, كيف الحال؟ بين المشرق والمغرب يعني. Okay, a couple of things, brief things to keep in mind. Don't want to prolong it, but just a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to wiping over the socks. Number one, it needs to be pure socks. You know, it needs to be pure. If it's dirty, impure, it's been in impure places, you're not allowed to wipe over them. And by the way, when it comes to impurity, it's when you are sure and there is no doubt that it's impure. Not that I think maybe this has once upon a time been somewhere that maybe there was a dog around in the park and maybe none of that stuff. It's either that it's impure or it's not. That's it, no doubtful. We keep doubts away. So you need pure socks and you need to be upon Tahara. So you need to have wudu when you put on the socks, for you to wipe over the socks. Okay? So, now we just prayed Asr, right? So let's say you did wudu and you didn't have your socks. You didn't have your socks on. And you did the wudu now, you wash your feet, now you put your socks on. You put your socks on while having wudu. So now you want to go toilet because you had too much coffee or tea or chai, and then biscuits, yeah? Then you want to go toilet. So now when you go for Maghrib, you still have the same socks on that you put on when you were in the state of wudu. You had wudu, you wash your feet, then you put your socks on. Okay. Now that you're making wudu, can you wipe over the socks?
Yeah.
Yes. Ittifaq. Consensus. Everyone. Yeah, we can wipe over those socks. Okay. Let's say you were at home. You didn't have wudu, and you came now. It's not salat time. Let's say you prayed at home. And then after that you went toilet. Then you came out of toilet and I have to go to the masjid. So you put your socks on, obviously, and then you come to the masjid. And then for Maghrib, you're like, oh, I didn't make wudu at home, so I'm going to make wudu. Now that you're making wudu, can you wipe over the socks? No, why can't you wipe over the socks? Yes.
Because you didn't have wudu in the first place.
You didn't have wudu in the first place. Very good. And remember that these socks, they need to cover your ankle. You know, there's summer socks that's below the ankle. You cannot wipe over those. So they need to cover your ankle. Similarly, if you know, like shoes, generally you're not going to be able to wipe over. But if you go like, let's say you're going somewhere, you're wearing big boots, yeah, and you're not going to take them off, you can wipe over the boots. You're allowed to wipe over the boots. Okay, so now that you wipe over the socks, what you do is you have your socks on and your foot is like that. You're with the slightly wet hands, you just wipe over and that's it. Once for the right one and then the left one and that's it. Now you have wudu. Okay? Now that you wipe your socks, you can keep wiping over your socks as long as you don't take your socks off. Now that you wipe your socks, you can't take the socks off. If you take the socks off, yeah, then you have to wash your feet the next time you do wudu. Yeah, you're not going to be able to wipe over again. You can't put them back on again and then wipe again. It doesn't work. Once you take it off, now you need to wash your feet the next time you make wudu. Okay? And then the next part is when you wipe over the socks and you keep the socks on, you can use it for you can keep wiping it for a number of salahs. So one full day. One full day is how many salahs? 5 salahs. If you are resident, so you're here in Bracknell, you're from Bracknell, you live in Bracknell, you can wipe over the salah for 24 hours, 5 salahs. If you're traveling, if you're constantly traveling somewhere, then you can keep wiping over the socks, sleep with the socks as well, for 3 days. 3 days, which is 15 salahs. Yeah, and after that, you need to wash your feet. Yes, we mentioned those parts. That's clear then, yeah?
Yeah.
تفضل أخي.
I think the time to start to count when you start to wipe is after the wudu or after when you get invalid wudu.
That's the big اختلاف بين العلماء. But when you wipe, escape is simple, and when you wipe. I know difference of opinion, but let's just say wipe, inshallah. Now.
You know, the regards to just the wiping process, is it allowed to do both at once? So, like, you have the water and you just, what does it have to be in the order of one, then the other?
Let's go. You can do left first, right, left, both of them at once, no problem. Just like you do to 2 ears, you don't do. You can do that as well, no problem. Okay. The other thing that you're able to wipe on as well, that's not really relevant, which is not, I'm not going to keep including masail, but some people you'll find wiping on a turban. If there's a specific kind of turban that the Arabs wear in the desert, where the head is covered and it covers underneath here. Have you seen those? The Bedouin Arabs. It covers like around here. Those ones, because it's difficult for you to take off, you can wipe on them. But because it's not relevant, I just want to mention it and let's move on. Just so we know this. You know, when you see someone wiping over the turban, you don't jump on them and say, what are you doing? Who wipes over the turban? Yeah. Now we get to the part of Naam.
Would that be the same for the ladies who are wearing hijab? They can wipe over rather than take it away?
There's a specific kind of hijab for the sisters. If they're wearing that one, then they're allowed to wipe over, but not the normal hijab that they use now. Not that one. But that's more was the one they use in Bedouin Arabs. That's the one you can wipe over. But not the ones that you use today, nowadays. Okay. Now impurities. Now we get to when impurities get somewhere and we need to remove it. Yeah? So now impurities, just like purity, impurity, you got the external and the internal. Internal, we say it because it's not a physical impurity that you can see. You know, like when you break your wudu is broken, you don't have wudu anymore. Can you see like the impurity of not having wudu?
No.
No, because if you, let's say, you pass wind, your wudu is broken. But you know, there's no impurity on you. That you not having wudu is not a physical impurity. It's within you. Yeah? So that's why we divide into two. The external impurity and the internal impurity. The external impurity includes 3 things, especially when it comes to the salah. So this one is specifically when it comes to salah. Yeah? The one is body, your own body. And then there's your clothes. So that's got to do with what you have on you and your body. And then the area and the place you want to pray. Yeah, those 3 places would have to be pure for you to perform the salah. Yeah, so these are part of purification. And these purification methods, the way to remove these impurities is simply with water. You know, with body, when you, let's say, you next to a dog and it licks your hand. What do you have to do? For the non-Malikis. Yeah, yeah.
You have to clean it, and then you could start, or you could put some,
Huh?
or you could put some dirt on you, and then you could clean it after.
Yeah, you clean that part basically before you're able to pray. Similarly, when you get it on your clothes, then you wash it. Oh, nowadays, alhamdulillah, we got a washing machine, so when it's dirty, it can be washed in that way. Yeah, and there are specific ones that, for example, got to do with the saliva of the dog when it gets on the clothes. But let's keeping it simple. As long as the body and the clothes, yeah, is washed, and even the area, the way to wash it generally is dumping a bucket of water, depending on what it is, yeah, to remove the impurity. There are other ways of removing it, but the general way of doing it is just washing the area with water. When you chuck water on it and the impurity is gone, then that area becomes pure. Okay? Yeah. The internal purity, that one you got two different types. The minor impurity and the major impurity. The minor impurity includes the ones that nullify your wudu. The ones that nullify your wudu, they are part of the minor internal impurity. And the way to cleanse yourself from that is to do your wudu. So when you want to get in the state of purity, then you do wudu. As for the major internal impurities, like after marital relations or the monthly cycle, then obviously we know that that cannot be removed except with a total full ghusl of the body. So you need to fully wash yourself before that can be removed. That major impurity is removed from your body. Any questions on that?
I was asking the question earlier. So, if you have went to the toilet and then later on you leaked it a little bit and you can't actually wash the clothes, can you purify just by maybe cleaning with water?
So generally with the toilet one, just like we said here, is najasa. And that's, by the way, not that you feel something, but it's an actual thing. So it's actual concern. Not that sometimes when you come out of the toilet and you clean yourself, like it feels like, oh, you're a bit like it's a bit wet still and stuff, but you ignore that. But if it's an actual concern and you've got impurity on your clothes like that, then you can get water and put on it and just like move it to get the water, get the place clean, and you can carry on, no problem. Yeah, so you can clean that area. Because sometimes I know you can't, if you're on the go, you can't just wash clothes, you know, it doesn't work that way. So if you get those impurities on you, then you can get water and maybe soap if that's available, get that, and then just like rub it, and then that impurity will go away. Now,
Quick question.
yeah,
When it comes to dreams, like
those dreams, yeah.
major or is it internal? Or
That one is minor because it's a wudu nullifier. So that's why it's just wudu nullifiers. Because that nullifies, it is... No, what am I saying? Major, yeah. So just like the intercourse, when obviously that happens, then you have to do ghusl when you wake up. Yeah. So that's a part of major impurity. But what mixed up in my head was the minor version. You know, when you just think, and that version is there. That's only wudu. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to talk in code with you, just so you get the point. Everyone got that, right? The ones that understand that, they got what I'm referring to. When you wake up from eating to the ghusl, if during the day, due to thought, you see some remnants, then that's just the wudu nullifier. So one is major, one is minor.
What is that? Sorry, I don't know.
You know the. I don't know how I'm describe that to you. Khalas, later on I'll tell you, inshallah, no worries. طيب. The next part is how to perform ghusl. Yeah? So, simply put, obviously there's not much to it, except that you make the intention, like we said before, you need the intention for every part of purification, including al-ghusl. So when you go and you want to do ghusl through, obviously when you go in the shower, you have that consciously there, but like if you jump into a swimming pool or in the ocean and stuff, then it's more important to keep that in mind, be conscious that you're intending for it to be a ghusl. Yeah, so to lift impurity or just do a ghusl, for example, ghusl of Yawm al-Jumu'ah. Yeah? And then what you do is you say Bismillah, just like when you wash your hands, you can wash it up to 3 times. The 3 times mentioned there is just for perfection. Then the part in the brackets where you wash the private part is you can do that voluntarily, but the reason why it's put in brackets is that it should be done when it's from major impurity, from as a result of anything, then a wet dream or anything like that, or intercourse, that should be washed. That part of the body should, the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to wash his private parts after major impurity. Then after that, you do wudu as normal. You do wudu as normal. Doing wudu as normal in the shower is recommended. If you go into the shower and you don't do the wudu, as long as you remember that all those parts become wet, your wudu is still valid. But to do the wudu, you keep away from the difference of opinion. It just keeps you on the safe side. And because alhamdulillah, water is not a problem, so you can do wudu in the shower as well, and that keeps you safe. Because there are those that say no, you have to do wudu, others say no, as long as you get wet, it's fine. So if you want to keep safe side, just do the wudu and you'll be on the safe side with that. And then you pour water over your head 3 times, and you generally rub your body and make sure that the water reaches everywhere. And another thing, and obviously this is for the men as well, I guess, but generally for the sisters, sometimes where you absolutely have to do ghusl a couple of times because of major impurity, it is sufficient for you to wash the roots of your hair. You do not have to wash every strand of hair every single time you do ghusl. For the men, it's not really a problem. But for sisters, I understand that's not easy. It's easier said than done, because there's a lot more hair, and especially if it's continuous. Also, let's say they have to wash themselves a couple of times because of major impurity from perhaps intercourse or just a cycle or everything. Then they shouldn't do that, but it is a way of making it easier for them. Let's say there is a couple of times they have to perform ghusl in the day, and they have to perform ghusl in the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. It's a couple of times in a row. It's difficult for sisters. So maybe 1 or 2 of those times they can just wash the roots, and that's sufficient. The major impurity will be lifted. It's not good for the hair generally. It's not recommended to do that, but it's permissible, it's allowed. Did everyone get that? Hopefully that's not confusing. In a nutshell, you can wash the roots of your hair, it's sufficient. So like where the hair, the scalp itself. And then you do the right side, you wash the entire body, right side, and then the left side. And once that is done, then you conclude your ghusl. And you can do the dua as well afterwards. If you've been conscious that you want to make wudu, then you can do the dua after ghusl as well. Is that clear? That's understood. It's not that difficult with the ghusl, alhamdulillah. So, you guys understand? Ghusl, washing yourself, shower, yeah?
When it says
Yeah.
do wudu as for prayer, so I guess as in obviously you've done the first bit, so you continue from there. You're not starting completely from the start, as in you again wash your hands.
No. From there, basically.
From that point.
Yeah, from that point.
So,
No worries. Okay. The next one is this interesting part of purifying yourself, which is tayammum. Tayammum is simply referring to when there is no water available. Not that some people just do tayammum because they can't be asked going to the toilet, can't be bothered going to the toilet. Yeah, that's not valid. Tayammum is only done when water is not available, or the water that's available is used for drinking and is needed for drinking. Then you can do tayammum. Tayammum is using the earth, any part of the earth or made from the earth directly, for you to put the palms of your hands on, yeah, and then you just like, if it's dusty or whatever remnants that come, you can remove that from your hand. Then you wipe the back of your right hand with the palm of the left, and the back of the left with the right, and then you wipe the face, and then you do the dua. And now you're in the state of purity, just like when you do wudu or ghusl. Yeah? So tayammum takes the ruling of wudu and ghusl. Obviously, because if you need to pray, and even if you're in major purity, you need to pray. You know, if you are water, you're in major purity, you still need to pray. So tayammum is there, badilahuma, like, so it can take both of their places. And they're done in this way. Do you guys get that? So now, there is the mas'ala of what type of earth you're allowed to do it on. So, any soil, dirt, clay, anything that's made from the earth, you can use to do tayammum. So you basically, if you've got like the floor, look here. So you put your hands, you know, you hit that dirt or where the soil is or where you're doing tayammum, yeah, and then you put it, whatever dust comes on your hand, you can remove that. If there's nothing, then no problem. And you just like put the left on the right, and the right on the left, and then you wash your face, or you put that on your face, put your hands on your face, and that's it. That's tayammum, basically. Hands, face, done. Simple. That's when there is no water available. And then after you've done that, you can pray and do any action that wudu is required for, using tayammum. And we'll get to the nullifiers of tayammum. Is slightly different than wudu. Every single thing that nullifies wudu nullifies tayammum. You need to do it again. If there's still no water, you do it again. So every single thing that breaks wudu breaks tayammum. Yeah? So it's not as difficult, but just because we don't do it, it's a bit strange to us, not in the normal doing it. But sometimes you might have to, let's say you go on, you're traveling, you go to the desert and there's not enough water, and the nearest water is far away, and the water you have is just for drinking. If you use that for wudu, there's not going to be any more drinking water. Should you use the drinking water still? No, you're in the desert, so you can just do tayammum anywhere and just pray. Okay? Right. Any questions with regards to that one?
Excuse me.
Now.
For the tayammum, so is it like the soil of the earth, or is it grass, mud? What part of the earth is acceptable to use? Or is it
All of them. Every single thing that is natural. Even the wall, if it's not painted, because paint is not natural. If you have a, let's say, brick wall, you can use the wall as well. You know? Anything that's natural from earth and it's there naturally, you can use it to do tayammum. If you can't, obviously soil and dust, those are preferable because those is straightforward. But if they're not available, then you can use whatever is naturally there. Yeah? Okay. Now we're going to get to another very important part of all of these things that we talked about. We finished with the sunnah and wiping of the socks and tayammum. Now we're going to get to that which nullifies all of those. All the nullifiers, yes. Huh? Good, very good. I don't have any paper. See, if he hasn't used it, he can use those. Okay. So there's a couple of things that nullifies one wudu, nawaqidul wudu. And we will mention these are what usually there be disputes regarding, some of them. So we'll mention them in slightly more detail, just so we understand why people are different. And you can make a note of that if you want. And if you get confused, then you can ask. Number one is anything, absolutely anything that comes out of your private parts. That's the easiest one. You know, it's solid, liquid, wind. Any one of those that come out of private part automatically breaks the wudu. We already know that, alhamdulillah. Number two is any impurity exiting the body. Any impurity that comes out of the body. Now here I have included blood and vomit, but we need to discuss that. Discuss those specifically, because there's differences among the scholars, among how they understood which one specifically causes your wudu to break. Number one, blood. When it comes to blood, then if you just start bleeding a bit, if it's just a bit of a scar, no problem at all. No one has a problem with that. Your wudu does not break. No problem at all. If you have a deep wound and blood is gushing from it, even then some say you break your wudu, others say you don't. To be on the safe side, do your wudu. If it's, like deep cuts, and you cut yourself very badly and you see literally dripping and you have to keep it up, and then even plaster is not going to do anything and stuff, that kind of a cut, that kind of a wound, when you see lots of blood, then it's better for you to do wudu. I'm not saying that it definitely nullifies the wudu. That's why if you hear someone saying, even if blood is gushing, because in the battlefield, they were wounded and blood was everywhere, and they still prayed. They still prayed. They didn't do wudu again. Yeah, so that's just one of the points. That's why we say if it's a bit of blood, it's fine. If you cut yourself a bit, you see a bit of blood and you put plaster, that's no problem. Don't worry about that. But if there's like lots of blood, then it's better for you to do wudu. You guys understand that? That's clear, no confusion. The next one is vomit. There's various different understandings when it comes to vomit and how it breaks your wudu. So, the reason why vomit breaks your wudu, just to understand why that is in the first place, is that which comes out of your body is, as in number two that comes out, is it pure or impure?
Impure.
Definitely najis and impure. Now, the food, that impurity is as a result of the food you had, right? The food is digested and then the waste product comes out. That's how it works. So now that you've had food, that has started the process of digestion in your body. So it's in the middle of the digestion process, in the middle of the process of from purity to impurity. So it's in that process. And it comes out just like it comes out when you go toilet. That is why they say when you vomit, that your wudu breaks. But only if the vomit has changed to the point where either it's smell or color or taste, not tasty, but like that's just the three. This is the three ways that they tell impurity. You know, color, smell, change. Let's say you have biscuits right now, yeah, and you vomit right now. What are you gonna see? Biscuits that you chewed is gonna come out. You're gonna see biscuits. You're not gonna see anything dirty, impure, right? You just had it and it just came out. So the digestive process hasn't started. So one of the opinions that a lot of people take, which makes it simpler, when you vomit, then you need to see if the vomit, you know, what you vomited is more resembling food or if the digestion process started. Generally it has started, you know, by the time it comes out, yeah, it's not nice. So generally speaking, when you see that, then do wudu. And just as a side note, whenever you vomit, just do wudu. When you do wudu, as soon as you vomit, regardless of how it looks, it just keeps you safe. And alhamdulillah, there's no problem with water, and wudu takes 2 minutes. So when you vomit, you can choose to look at it and be like, okay, it looks like food, so I don't need to do wudu. My wudu hasn't broken. But what's better is for you to generally do wudu. If you do wudu, no one's gonna say you're not allowed to do wudu. Yeah? So you can do wudu. So when you vomit, because the Messenger ﷺ, it says, قَاءَ ثُمَّ تَوَضَّعَ. He vomited, then he made wudu. But the way they understand this action of the Messenger ﷺ depends on which scholar you're listening from. You're listening to. So, due to that, if you vomit, just wudu. It just keeps you safe. And regardless of the Messenger ﷺ doing it for a specific reason or interpretation, that's what he did. He vomited, then he did wudu. So if you vomit, just do wudu. As simple as. If it's blood, there's no need to go, what should I do now? I don't know, is it not? Just do wudu. If it's like runny blood gushing, lots of blood, just do wudu, no problem. It takes 2 minutes. Some people that I've seen, like, they're like, oh, I remember once in college, I used to tell this Muslim, Akhi, come pray. You need to come and pray. Every single salah, I used to tell him, come pray. And he never used to pray. So in the end, I was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not praying? He goes, oh, I have to go and do wudu, and the wudu is so long, it's gonna take ages. And I was like, what kind of wudu do you do? So then he said, oh no, obviously bro, like you have to go and you have to stand there and make the intention, and then you have to wash every single limb 3 times, and you have to keep checking, and you have to make sure. And he went on for some long ritual. I was like, I don't know what that is, but that's not the wudu that I'm referring to. So I told him that this is the way you do the wudu, and it takes 2 minutes. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, why don't I just pray? And I was like, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So just do it. It's simple. You do the wudu and you pray. Yeah. So if you see blood or vomit, then it's better to do wudu. Another thing that people say is when you laugh. I don't know where they get this from. Yes, exactly. That face of mine when I heard that first time. Some say when you laugh out loud in your salah breaks and your wudu breaks. Obviously, if you laugh out loud in your salah, there's something wrong with you, and then your salah is broken. Obviously. If you laugh in salah, there's no more salah. But what does that have to do with your wudu? Unless your laughing caused something else. If that's not the case, then your wudu is still intact. You know, so if someone tells you like, oh, you laughed and that, then you have to make wudu, yeah, jazakallah khair, but this we don't do it. Laughing doesn't break wudu. Another thing people say is like other misconceptions, when you clip your nails, your wudu breaks. Not correct at all. When you take your clothes off, even if you like take them off to just put some other clothes on, your wudu breaks because you take the clothes off. Not correct. You know, these are some practices that people claim to break your wudu. They are not correct, and people should refrain from just talking without ilm, without knowledge, as the Sheikh mentioned yesterday. Number 3 is unconsciousness. So this can be in the form of sleeping, or just simply literally being unconscious. Yeah? So the general thing is sleeping will break your wudu. Now, there is a matter to discuss when it comes to sleeping. That is, if you're nodding off, as in like you're falling asleep like this, you know, like maybe a few seconds, then you wake up again because your head is falling. Yeah. As long as you are not, so you're gonna hear opinions there as well. But one simple thing to remember is, as long as you are not leaning somewhere, and it's like you're not leaning anywhere, and it's like, you know, like that, you fall asleep. When you wake up, it's fine. Your wudu doesn't break. Because some of the companions, they used to like fall asleep sometime while they're waiting for the Messenger ﷺ to come out, especially around Isha time, where he would delay it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, as long as you're not leaning, if you lean, I've seen people lean and sleep 7 hours straight. So, you know, you are unconscious, same way, leaning as you are lying down. So, as long as you're not leaning somewhere, and you're just nodding off like that, then it's fine. Your wudu is intact. Yeah? The next one is coming into contact with opposite gender. Yeah, so this one we need to go into a bit of details in. I wish I could lie down now as well. Alhamdulillah. So, this one refers to when skin to skin contact with the opposite gender with shahwa. Yeah, so with desires. Yeah, with desires, if you come into contact with the opposite gender. So here, so I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. The scholars, they have mentioned 3 opinions. 3 different opinions. Number 1 is when you come into contact for any reason, your wudu breaks. That's one extreme. Then they say, no, but if you come into contact with her even with desires, your wudu doesn't break. That's the other extreme. So we have the 2 extremes now. Never breaks, definitely breaks. And then there is the middle one which says, if you come into contact skin to skin with the opposite gender without desires, wudu doesn't break. But with desires, your wudu breaks. How do they come to these different conclusions? Allah Azza wa Jalla says in this ayah, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ, when you get in contact with women. So now, one says that in Arabic, lamastum here means with desires. Others say no, lamastum means if you get in touch, because obviously language is very broad, so one word, especially Arabic, can have many different meanings. This is just one of the evidence they use. Yeah. Others say Rasulullah used to kiss his wife when he would leave. That's coming into contact. And he used to go and pray. So, how are you saying that your wudu definitely breaks as soon as you touch? Yeah? So, these are just to tell you that you will hear these different ones. I don't want to cause confusion. There's not confusion. You're not confused, right, with that? So there's just different ways of understanding that. But just to be on the safe side, middle ground, yeah, is that if you come into contact with her without desires, which is mostly the case. I mean, subhanAllah, like if you got like daughters, sisters, mom, and every time you hold their hand, you're gonna make wudu. Like this doesn't really make sense. So to say that it's with desires now it makes sense, because you're not gonna obviously you're not gonna have that. Alhamdulillah, we're Muslims, so we don't have that with daughters, sisters, mom. So you're safe, and it keeps a balanced ground, in the middle where you take all of the evidences into account. And if you come into contact with opposite gender with shahwa, obviously wife, spouse, then the wudu breaks. You have to do wudu again. Is that clear? تفضل أخي.
So, are we talking skin to skin or even just?
No, skin to skin. That's why I said skin to skin. If it's through a barrier, then this doesn't even apply. Okay. Next part. Coming into contact with private parts. Same as the previous one. If it's with shahwa, your wudu breaks. If it's without shahwa, as in without desires, your wudu does not break. They were trying to keep the middle ground, because of evidence on both sides. So you can't reject evidences as well, because we hear and obey our beloved Messenger ﷺ, so we don't reject. We try to combine to understand that he was perhaps referring to when you come into contact with your private parts with desires, then you have to do wudu again. It nullifies your wudu. Number 6 is eating camel meat. Eating camel meat breaks the wudu. Eating camel meat breaks the wudu. Here, you have some that say that camel meat breaks the wudu. Others say it doesn't break the wudu. Okay? So the reason why there's two different opinions here is that a companion asked the Messenger ﷺ, do I have to make wudu after eating camel meat? And he said, yes. So you might think, why is there a second opinion in the first place then? If it's that clear. But then there's another hadith. Towards the end of the Messenger ﷺ's life, he says in the hadith, whatever touches the fire, as in is cooked, is allowed, it does not break your wudu. So they say that the ruling for camel was there for some time, then Rasulullah replaced it with another ruling. You see? So this is why they get two different opinions here. So if you have camel meat, we don't really enjoy camel meat around these countries, but if you go to the Middle East and you have that, then it's safer for you to do wudu. Yeah? Safer for you to do wudu. The next one is when you wash a body. You should have said washing a dead body, but that's what's meant. So when you wash a dead body, your wudu also breaks. And lastly, obviously, if a person is wicked enough to leave Islam, the whole Islam is nullified, let alone wudu. The whole Islam is nullified, including if you have wudu and you become a kafir, wudu is not staying. Yeah? And then we have these, like I said before, these were the ones that nullify the wudu and the tayammum. The ones that, the tayammum, the wudu, the purity that you get from using soil or earth. Then you have specific ones for tayammum. And these ones include when water is available. When water is available, then your tayammum breaks. So let's say you did tayammum. You prayed Asr. And then let's say you went on in a holiday. You went on holiday, Saudi Arabia, you're driving around like Neom, the new city, and all desert there. So now it's salah time, there's no water, and the water you have is only for drinking. And you decide, this is, I have no choice but to do tayammum. So you do tayammum, you pray asr, then you drive off and you get close to a city, or a petrol station, and they got water there. And it's Maghrib time. Now Maghrib time has started. Can you pray with that tayammum? No, because water, you haven't broken your wudu like with the first 8 that's mentioned there. But water is now available and you did tayammum. You cannot pray Maghrib with the tayammum. So your tayammum is automatically broken when water is available. And number 2 is, if you are unable to use water, for example, like the example that the Sheikh mentioned yesterday, the companion that had a scar on his head, and he was in the state of janaba, major impurity, a big on his head. So the Rasulullah wasn't there, the other companions. So he asked him, what should I do? Like, got this scar, this wound in my head. So they said, no, you have to wash and you have to do ghusl because you're in major impurity. He did it, and the water affected him in such a way that he died. So when they came to the Messenger and told him, they said, قَتَلُوهُ قَتَلَهُمُ اللَّهُ. They killed him. May Allah kill them. Why didn't you just ask? You could have asked, and I would have told you, do tayammum. Because that's one exception when it comes to tayammum. Obviously, with illness, then there are many exceptions, even with salah and wudu and tayammum. So, with this specific one, if you are ill and you're unable, you cannot use water in that specific scenario. If you got a wound and you're in major impurity, and the only way of removing that impurity is through ghusl, and you can't, you do tayammum instead. But once the wound has healed enough for you to use water, now your tayammum breaks. You're not able to use that anymore. And then the other, just general reasoning for the tayammum expires. So if there is any other reason that you're using tayammum, and that reasoning is gone, then your tayammum breaks. And if you have prayed a salah, and straight after the salah water is found, you don't have to repeat that salah, just because water is found. You prayed that salah, there wasn't water, you prayed that salah, and you are exempt from that, and you need to repeat that salah that you performed using tayammum. And so as we said, these are all the minor impurities. The wudu nullifiers, these are the ones that nullify the wudu and also nullify the tayammum. Any questions?
Do we know the reason behind the sleep? Like, sometimes the namaz is short and you fall asleep, but do you know the context behind doing the wudu again and the sleep or resting?
The thing is that because when you are sleeping or unconscious, you are not aware of yourself, and you're not aware, maybe you passed wind or something else happened that you broke your wudu, and you're not aware. That's why because you cannot tell. There's no way of you being, no, I know that. You can't tell. Because it happens. That's normal, So that's why if you fall asleep, that's the reason behind it. There's, funnily enough, one of the mashayikh, one of the scholars, he had this opinion that if you're sitting, if you're sitting, as long as you're sitting, he was like, there's no way you can pass wind or anything. So if you're sitting, even if you lean, you fall asleep, your wudu doesn't break. So he had the opinion, and one day he went to Salat al-Jumu'ah a bit earlier. One person next to him had fallen asleep sitting, and he did a major pass of wind right next to him while he's sitting leaning. So as soon as he saw that, he goes, La khalas, I need to change my opinion. So he went back and he changed it. He goes, no more leaning. Clearly that doesn't stop someone from potentially breaking one's wudu.
Do we know the reason behind the camel meat? Like, why is it?
The wisdom behind it,
The reason behind the camel meat and no
as in the
other-
wisdom behind
yeah,
it.
and no other meat.
Not really, no. No, I don't think I know. There was one brother, he didn't follow the opinion in Medina, so I said to him, "Akhi, you know, camel meat, it breaks the wudu." So he goes, I'm a bit scared now. I was like, why? He goes, you told me wudu breaks. I was like, yeah. Wudu breaks. Well, no, but that means that the wudu is going to do something to me and send me to toilet. That's why my wudu breaks. So I was like, no, that's not how it works. The camel doesn't send you to toilet for you to break your wudu. The camel meat itself, when you eat it, as soon as you eat it, your wudu breaks. Yeah, so. Fadal.
I missed number 4. Can you give me a quick pointer as to what that's about?
Oh, that one was the longest one as well.
Okay. I'll save it for another time. That's fine.
The opposite gender, if it's with the desires, then your wudu breaks.
Okay.
Yes, but there are other opinions that I mentioned. Who can mention the other opinions? Was the opposite gender?
It doesn't even have desire.
One is it doesn't break at all, and then yeah,
That's skin to skin to opposite gender. You have to read.
yeah. So one is that it never breaks, even if it's with desires. One is it will always break, even without desires. And then the middle one is the one that we said if the skin to skin contact with the opposite gender, then if it's with desire, then your wudu breaks. If it's without, then nothing happens. There's one brother, he said, I was trying.
Is it about intimacy? So I guess it is that.
No. Obviously, intimacy is very broad, and that includes touching just with desires. So if it's skin to skin in any way with desires, your wudu breaks. And same with private parts. Both with desires, your wudu breaks. There was one brother, he was like, I tried to follow the extreme opinion that your wudu will always break while doing tawaf around the Kaaba. He goes, I will go do tawaf, I want to leave to do wudu. I come back, I start tawaf, I leave to, because obviously there, like, you can't avoid, people. So they come in contact with you, then he will go out, do wudu, come back. To go out, come back, goes, I can't do this. This doesn't work. So it's simply when it's with desires, it breaks. With no desires, because like we said, if your daughter, sister, mom, every time go wudu, it's not going to work. It's very difficult. And Rasulullah, he kissed his wife before leaving, going to the masjid. So it's a bit of a stretch to say it definitely breaks the wudu. Any more questions?
The last one will be, in this country, obviously, we've got water facilities. Some people have to go to the public toilet to do water. If that public toilet is so filthy but water is accessible, is it preferred to do dry or do rather than going into?
But water is accessible.
You can go into the toilet, but the toilet's dirty. You know, like sometimes you go into the public toilet
Yeah.
to do water, but it's too dirty. So, like, is it preferred that you do it in a clean environment, or do you continue to?
Now, as long as the water itself is pure, you cannot do tayammum. So you will have to go in, maybe have a cloth around you, or just hold yourself, just fill it maybe in a container, and then go out somewhere, and then do. If it's like unbearable, like you have to go very far for it to become unbearable. Obviously, that's subjective, person to person, but you should get a container. Like I said, take it out, do wudu. There's a lot more topics that can. We haven't even opened the door of the monthly cycle for sisters, because that will take in a whole another workshop. So that one, and then there's other masail as well that is not enough time at all. We studied these in Medina. It took us 6 months to go through purification.
Is that one you can do?
Say again? 3 months, not 6 months. Huh?
Is that one you can do? Because I often get asked by my wife some questions about that, and
It's very lengthy. Potentially, yeah, this is possible. But like I said, that one, there's a lot of ahkam to it. There's so much that goes into it that I don't know how they do it. Like, as in this one with that and with other things. Like right now, I have to look at the timelines or the month. So, inshallah, hope that that's possible sometime in the future. Any more questions before we end, inshallah? خلاص بارك الله فيكم جميعا. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept from us, grant us beneficial knowledge, sustenance that is pure, and actions that are for His sake and His sake alone and accepted by Him. May Allah Azza wa Jalla allow us to practice what we learn. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla accept from us and allow us to join the ranks of the scholars through the right intention, and allow us to benefit from our mashayikh and our scholars and keep us close to them and ilm and Quran for His sake alone. بارك الله فيكم جميعا. صلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Hassan, Ayub, Hassan, one of you.